Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Make sure to like the video if you enjoy it and don't forget to subscribe. So today we're looking at the Blazing Vortex, which is the brand new OCG pack coming out, and we're looking at the Windwitch archetype. These cards came from, I think it was Yu-Gi-Oh Arc 5. They were used by one of the female lead characters, and it's actually really good support. I'm hoping it's quite decent because these had very strong monsters in them. The first card is Windwitch Blizzard Bell. It's a level 5 wind spellcaster tuner effect monster with 1100 attack and 1800 defense. You can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. 1. If you control no monsters or all monsters you control are Windwitch monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. 2. During your opponent's main phase, if you control a Windwitch monster other than Blizzard Bell, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard to inflict 500 damage to your opponent. So this card I consider to be a little bit bizarre for the archetype. Yes, it does rely on a lot of burn damage and to chip away. That's how they've always worked, and I don't see that being any different now. It's not great considering the stat lineup for a level 5, but it is a tuner monster. So, of course, you're actually able to go into it really quickly. If you don't have any monsters at all, you could just normal summon it purely. Or if you've already got Windwitch monsters on your field, that's also not a requirement if there's any issues. The second effect is an awful effect. It's just 500 points of damage to get rid of this card. I'd rather tune this card away to bring out a synchro monster than to use this effect, unless your opponent has less than 500 life points, in which case, use the effect. The next card is Windwitch Freeze Bell. It's a level 3 wind spellcaster effect monster with 1200 attack and 1200 defense. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. 1. If all monsters you control are Windwitch monsters, you need to have at minimum 1. You can special summon this card from your hand. 2. Once per turn, you can increase this card's level by 1. And 3. A wind synchro monster that was synchro summoned using this card as synchro material cannot be destroyed by battle. So, my review on this card is it's okay for the archetype. I think it's pretty decent. This card could be easily special summoned. You could have normal summoned the Windwitch and then special summon this. So if you've got already the buff monster, you can actually go into a level 8 synchro monster. That could include something like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is still a very viable option. You've got Stardust Dragon. You can go into other cards as well. Being able to manipulate this card's level to increase it by 1 once a turn can be okay, depending on what you want to do with it. There aren't any restrictions as to what you can go into. I mean, you can essentially exceed using this card. It's just there won't be any benefits to it. And of course, the third effect actually incentivizes you to bring out a wind synchro monster, which this card was always in, and the Windwitches are always intended to do anyway, to be able to prevent it from being destroyed by battle. Of course, saying that, if you are going to use it for something like Stardust Dragon, and then you use Stardust Dragon's effect to remove itself from the field, send it to the graveyard, and then revive it, it will lose this effect. So out of the options I did list before, that's probably the least important one. It does provide a level of protection, but it is very limited to the wind attribute, so be careful on what you choose. And of course, it's not going to be anything without having a brand new synchro monster to play with as well. This is Windwitch Diamond Bell. It's a level 8 wind attribute spellcaster, a synchro effect monster with 2800 attack and 2400 defense. It requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner wind monsters, and you can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. 1. If this card is synchro summoned, you can target one windwitch monster in your graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half its attack. 2. Once per turn, if your opponent takes battle or effect damage, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. If this card was synchro summoned using only windwitch monsters as material, you can activate this effect up to twice per turn. Okay, so this card is very strong for the deck. It does require you to use non-tuner wind monsters, which means you really just want to be running it in almost a pure windwitch build. Running anything else means you risk running into attributes that you don't need or clogging up your hand in other ways. Being able to do half effect damage based on the windwitch monster in your graveyard is, I don't think it's either here or there. I mean, if you look at the strongest one up there, that level 5, it's got 1,800 attack, so you do 900 damage. It's not that good, but always chip damage will do something. The second thing is, if your opponent takes battle or effect damage, you can get rid of one of the cards on the field is very decent, because you've got all of these cards within the deck that actually work to cause effect damage. So if you can actually only synchro summon this using windwitch monsters, using this effect twice means you're instantly able to destroy 2 cards. Disrupting your opponent's key cards with this effect means you can actually win the game a lot easier, and I definitely see this as a very viable card for the deck. It's very consistent for what it does as well, because it doesn't just rely on the effect damage. If you're not prepared to get rid of certain monsters, or they don't have effects as is one of the above monsters, then you can always just go in for your battle phase and then get rid of other cards if that's the route you want to take. So actually there is more flexibility to it. If it had been one or the other, I would not say this card is as good as it is now. The next card is Chime of the Windwitch. It's a Norse spell card, and the effect is you can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this card, except wind monsters. So you need to target one windwitch monster you control, special summon windwitch a monster with a different name from that face-up monster from your deck in defense position. These cards can be used, for synchro summons, so that's why there's a limitation on it being wind attribute. Of course, that's just how the windwitch archetype works, and that's best for you just to be running wind attribute synchro monsters in your deck. The last card is Icewind's Refrain. It's a normal trap card. You can activate one card with the card's name per turn. Activate one of these effects, target one windwitch monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position, or when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your activation of a windwitch monster effect, negate that opponent's effect. The first effect is decent. It's a little bit like the Shallow Grave, just for your monster. Being able to do this means you can go into another synchro monster if you want. Or I actually think the second effect is better. You have a lot of opponents' cards which can trigger off of cards. And so the best thing to do is sometimes to prevent your own monster from losing its effect is to shut down your opponent's. Of course, this could start a chain if they've got multiple negations on the field and they can actually just negate your trap. But at least that might force your opponent to negate things to a point where you can actually use something like, if you've got a Raigeki in your hand and your opponent has nothing else, triggering to activate that, wiping out the rest of their cards, and treating this card as a decoy. For what these cards do, I actually love the design of them, and I see all of them being useful, and I really am happy with how Konami have thought about this and the Fable archetype that I mentioned before. They are both very much thought of, and I can't wait to actually review the Armed Dragon series. Again, it's not something I've seen as of yet, just because I want to kind of give you my honest opinion and give you an honest reaction as and when I see them, so I didn't want to spoil it for myself. Whatever you think of this archetype, have you ever played it before? Do you know how it works? Are there any new strategies you can think of? Whatever you think, leave your comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.